In this video, we're going to walk through testing a component interface, and I had created a brand new component interface from the last example. And how you test that is simply open up your component interface, and you can go from the Tools menu, and you see Test Component Interface. So I click the Test Component Interface button, and it should open up a new App Designer window, and it pops under here, and you'll notice I have an error. The error I have is not authorized, and that is because anytime you create a new component interface, you must go and add security to the component interface. So you need to grant access. So let's go and walk through how to grant security before we actually move forward and test the component. Okay, when you need to add security for your component, you need to go to a permission list and add the component to the component interface to the permission list. We're looking at the HCPP all permission list, and you'll notice there are several tabs here, one of which says component interfaces. Simply click on the component interfaces tab, and that will take you over to where you'll be able to add your component interface. And so what we do is from the lookup, we're going to choose the component interface we created and click and select that, and it will add a row, but you're not done. You still need to grant permissions. This adds the component interface to the grid. However, you need to click edit because currently the component interface has no access. There are methods within this component interface, and they need to be granted. So we talked about these methods in the guide: the get, the create, save, cancel, and find. They're all added, and of course any additional user-defined method you create as well will show up here. You go through and have to grant access to each one, or I don't know which ones you would want to give. If it's one or two of them, then you grant access to that. We're just going to click full access and give everything full access. Click OK, and then save your permission list, and that is what allows you to access your component interface. Okay, now that we have granted the security access to the component, when we open our component interface and go to click on Test Component Interface, we should not get that error anymore. So if you ever get a not authorized error, it indicates that you need to grant security. Now that we have the component interface, tester opens up, and you can see here the very first window is the get keys for the component interface, and then again, if your component has add capabilities, you'll see create keys and of course find keys. Some other things that you can test are get history items and edit history items. So you can check those if you want. But you can't just go and click on get existing, because if you do that, it'll say more than one row exists, and it'll tell your component it failed to get the component interface. So you need to double click on Opera ID and actually put in a operator ID. Click on get existing, and it'll pop open a window, and this is your component interface tester, where you'll actually have just now invoked the get method and retrieved all of the specific collections and properties, and you see the values associated with them. Now let's look at adding. So if we're going to add or invoke our create method, we need to again put in a value and click on create new, and you see defaults here as well. So you'll see some values that are there by default. You can double click on any of these properties and type in a value. Alright, and if you see any methods on this component interface, you can also right click, and we can save, cancel, get property by name, get property by info. So okay, and then finally let's test the find keys. Again, if you can just type in any particular value in the keys, and you'll get a whole list of things that start with PS. So that is the find. So that's how you test your component interface before you actually start using it through programs such as Application Engine or PeopleCode. Once you have passed this step and you know that your component interface is working, then you can move on to actually coding and programming.